Hey everybody, I thought since it's probably dark up at Calumet and you're not going to be able to see Lake Ossipee, I thought maybe you'd enjoy seeing the Long Island Sound here from Old Saybrook. I've got one verse for us to think about this evening. It comes from Matthew, where Jesus says, "Come to me all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Good words for us during a pandemic and during a time of such unease and uncertainty and all the things going on in the world. Back when I was a freshman in college, so this is like 1993, I was at a point, not quite at this point of the year, maybe a little bit further, closer to Christmas or so, but my grades were not doing the best. I still had time to recover though, so maybe it was a little bit more like November. My girlfriend at the time had broken up with me. I was not making very good health choices, particularly around food. I was kind of a mess. And I just remember this one evening, I just lost it. I couldn't hold it together anymore. I was going down the stairs in my dorm, and I stopped, and I sat down, and I just started weeping, and I just started weeping a lot. I mean, maybe I was a little homesick too. It's just kind of my first real time away for a long period of time. And this friend of mine, his name was Ben, he came and he didn't ask a lot of questions. He just sat next to me, and I just started crying and crying and crying. And he put his arm around me, and he just kept saying, just let it out, just let it out. When I think of this verse, I think of that moment. Jesus is the one for us to let it all out on. He holds us and comforts us, and like a good friend is there for us when we need us. I mean, these last 6.5, 7 months now have been a great challenge. There's been a lot of times where I know a lot of people have lost it. And we, in many ways, have probably felt isolated and away from each other and not able to hold each other up. And yet we have this promise that in the midst of whatever it is we're going through, with all the pain and suffering we see in the world, all the loss and mourning and grieving for so many lives that are gone, for the violence we see in the world, for the racism we see in the world, for the brokenness everywhere, for the divisions that seem unreconcilable, there are moments when all of us just need to lose it a little bit, to let it out, as my friend Ben said, to just let it out. And the promise we have is that in the midst of our pain and sorrow, Jesus, man of sorrows, bears those burdens for us. Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. I've been thinking over the course of these 6.5 months, what is the church actually? I mean, we have the things, we've been talking about it for years. How do we renew our communities and be faithful people in the 21st century? I know I certainly have been thinking a lot about that over the years. But when it has come time where we've lost everything, even the ability to gather, what does it mean? Is church just the traditions? Is it the buildings? Is it the music? Is it the worship services? Is it the words? Is it the meals? Is it the friendships? I mean, of course it's all those things, but there's more intangibles than that. And one of those obscure documents that only church dorks like me ever read, we have this little piece where Luther's trying to define what good news is. In the Smalcald articles, he talks about, of course it's the obvious things like, forgiveness and baptism and the word and of course the Eucharist around the table and sharing his life together like that. But then there's this other little piece that it's really only here that he lifts up and says it's also the mutual consolation of believers. And I've seen that in some pretty powerful ways over the course of this 6.5, 7 months, as people have reached out to each other technologically, as well as through low-tech ways like cards and letters and phone calls, or even though they can't be together, socially distancing and still bringing meals to each other. Letting each other know that we care. I mean, maybe your community at home has done some of these things. Maybe you're still figuring out what that means. I think a community like Calumet, a lot of us love camp. We love being at camp. We love the things about camp. We love the people at camp. We love the goofiness of camp. I know I certainly do. But what makes Calumet Nation is that I think for all of us, it's the intangibles of not being together and still being together somehow. Even, we did reach the beach, and it's always about, the people you're hanging out with in that van for those 36 hours or so, and reclaiming that camp intangible about community and being together and trying to do something to provide that for other people to enjoy it too. And this year with R2B 2.0, we all did it virtually, all did it in different places. And I still felt that same sense of community, that same sense of togetherness, that same sense of trying to be the body of Christ in the world for one another and invite people into that. And to me, I think really that is what church is. It's being the body of Christ, but not in some, I don't know, so highfalutin way that we can't quite grasp it. It's exactly in the ways we can grasp it. It's exactly in those places when you're sitting in a stairwell when you're 18 years old and you're lost and confused and things aren't going well, and you know you can do better than this, and you're not sure how to put it together, and a friend comes and sits next to you, and you just lose it and start to weep. And it's not embarrassing. You're not ashamed. You don't feel like you've let your guard down. You let somebody else love you and hold you and be the strength you need in that moment. That's church. I know for a lot of leaders during these months, we've had to do a lot of that, and it's been weary for a lot of us in the midst of all this pain and suffering, not only in our communities and the people we know and care about, but also in the world and the heartbreak we see all around us in so many ways. And yet, as well as I do, it's not about us or our strength or what we can do to solve people's problems, or even listen to their complaints that really just come from a place of hurt. It's about knowing that this Jesus holds it all together, holds you and I together, holds us together, sets us free to lift up those around us. I mean, it's often been said in leadership circles, you need to be the calmest person in the world. I believe that. But you know what you and I can bring, even beyond that? We can be the breath of fresh air that other people need, to be not just a place of resilience, but a place of joy, a shoulder to cry on, a love that holds us. Come to me, you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest, Jesus says. How you doing in these days? I hope you have someone to lean on. I hope you know this community is there for you and cares about you, and I know that the Christ who holds us all together loves you very, very much. God's peace be with you, always.